This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Everyone Lies, or Everybody Lies, or Every Person Lies, whatever you want to call it. It's our house show where we talk house in the house. We're in houses. We're separated in different houses because of things going on in the world, but we're in houses right now. Right, Mike?
Yes. And it's not a house party or even a house party 2.
No. Although my hair is starting to get pretty long, like I'm
in need of a haircut as well.
But it's we're doing our part. I think Mike and I are the only 2 people in Michigan doing our part.
Could be
to stave off the virus. But we're here with you. Just huddle around your TVs like it's 1941, and we'll tell you.
Your TVs?
Whatever, your radios, your phones.
I don't think we're on TV.
Not on the radio either, but...
Huddle around your TVs and say, I can't hear shit.
To all our boys at war and all the ships at sea. But anyway, this episode of House is entitled... what?
3 stories.
Yeah, three stories. And it's
I know this is a favorite of yours. You've mentioned this from the beginning.
It's 3 distinct stories. Yeah, this might be my favorite episode of House of all time. It's definitely up there. So
it's all downhill from here.
This is one of the
8 more seasons, ladies and gentlemen. Pure shit.
This is one of the ones where they kind of change up the formula a little bit, and it usually works pretty well when they change up the formula.
Which makes you think the formula is not that great.
Right. Well, it's very much a procedural show, like a Law and Order or something like that. But when they mess with it, a lot of times they come up with some good stuff.
Yeah, it's usually for a good reason. I like this episode a lot. It was pretty good. So do you want to, let's see. So it starts off, good old House has gotten into some shenanigans again, and so he wants to go to clinic duty. And for some reason, in order to get out, they have him do a lecture, and the lecture is in 20 minutes. So basically, they had no backup plan. So I think Cuddy is at the point where she just knows House so well, she could just easily manipulate him into doing whatever she wants at any time.
Yep, exactly. She says, and he argues that this dude that's supposed to be Dr. Riley, that's supposed to be giving the lecture, he's like, well, he's lying. He can't be sick this often, and not be lying. So
right.
They try
then he actually goes into the everything lies line a little bit, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. So he tries to negotiate, and she's like, just do it for 2 hours. I know you'd rather listen to yourself than do 2 hours of clinic duty. So he goes to go in, and then he's met by Celia Ward from what was she on, 30 something, or she was on some show, I don't remember.
No clue.
But turns out, and we've had hints of her before. She plays the character of Stacy Warner. This is when Jimmy Olsen there, little Jimmy, didn't James Wilson didn't want to go out with House, and he was making up excuses. This is who he went to dinner with, or basically just kind of catching up with her. And
Wilson wasn't just trying to catch up with her.
That's right. That's why her husband has I don't know, whatever he's got. Well, I almost gave away the next episode. But anyway, so she says, "Hey, we used to date. I need to let the audience know that it's been 5 years, but we used to date. And here's scans from my husband. He's been fainting and has abdominal pain. I want you to try to tell me what's going on because no other doctor can figure it out." And he's like, I don't know if I want him to get better, so I'm going to go do this lecture now. So he goes, and, one thing that I like about this is the lecture hall's like maybe a quarter full at the beginning. And as the story, as he continues, it gets fuller and fuller until basically it's standing room only at the end. But he starts out and says, So three people, like this is how he's going to teach the class because it's a class about diagnostics. He says three people present with leg pain. What's wrong with them? And then, the know-it-all guy, or as he's credited in the credits, keen student.
Is it Andrew Keegan?
No, Andrew Keegan is rebellious student.
Oh, okay.
And then the guy,
hair makes him rebellious.
Yeah, apparently.
Because nothing else does.
The Asian girl is caring student, and then the other guy, the guys that raises his hand, he's like most leg pain is musculoskeletal or whatever. He's keen student.
Huh, that's weird because caring student, I believe the lady from The Craft had a different name for her.
Exactly.
Christine Taylor's character.
But sweet ass callback. That's what you can look forward to on Massive Leafy. Sweet ass callbacks,
which you've already listened to.
Yep. So anyway, he basically says, let's figure out what's going on with him, and the rebellious student says, "Hey, so what were they doing?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he's like, "You didn't ask?" And he says, yeah, I asked. All it told me was what they said was happening, which is a really great foreshadowing for, some stuff that happens in this episode. So he says the first one is a farmer who feels some pain in his leg and then collapses when he's out in the field mending a fence. Second patient is a volleyball player, falls down at volleyball practice, gets hurt. Third patient is Carmen Electra golfing. What did you think of Carmen Electra's golf outfit?
I don't know that she would actually wear that playing golf.
No, I don't know that she would. I don't know. I don't know that she'd play miniature golf.
I don't. When I think about it, I don't know anything about Carmen Electra. She's associated with Prince somehow. That's it. Is she on anything? I don't think so. Was she in a movie? I couldn't tell you.
Was she in Baywatch?
That's my thought as well. Maybe she was on Baywatch, but maybe she's just known for maybe she's like the earlier version of what's her name? That lady who was with Kanye West,
Taylor Swift?
Amber Rose.
Oh yeah, maybe.
maybe. No, say was she in? She was in Beer League, but that's not Beer League. What the hell am I thinking of?
Basketball?
Beer Fest? Basketball, that's it, but that's not her. That's Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah, that's the other one. Jenny McCarthy was at least on Singled Out on MTV.
Yeah, and she was in Scream 3, I think.
I think Carmen Electra was maybe parodied in one of the Scream movies or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe she... I don't... If anybody knows why I know who Carmen Electra is, aside from the fact that she was very attractive, let me know.
How does she survive? That's what we want to know.
How does she survive?
Was she in Playboy? She's probably in Playboy, right?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, I'm guessing she was.
I think people our age in general, outside of Jason Forbes, have seen very few Playboys.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Like I've maybe seen 5, and they're like, eh.
I think yeah.
Our pornographic technology was already well advanced by that point.
Yeah, I may have seen about 5 too, and I think one of them was the Marilyn Monroe one. Which I think was the first one, and I
think so.
That's more like that's not even pornography really. Like when if you see, I don't if you've ever seen that one, like actually gone into that one, it's more just like an artifact than anything else. Yeah. So where were we? Pornography. X and XX.com. No. That's right. Carmen Electra. So. He's like, hey, what's happening with him? So they go to the farmer first, and I like this too. This is a good, like little, I don't know, touch where he's like, how'd you get to the fence? And, how far was he? He was like, it's about a half a mile from my farmhouse. I hiked there. The pain started in my ankle and is radiating upward. Just like speaking in very clinical medical terms. They play a lot with, like space and time and stuff like that. At one point, House even says, but as we've established, time is not a fixed construct.
Hey, you know what, Mark? Carmen Electra also hosted Single Out
Oh,
for
really?
1 year.
Well, that's
And she
why.
was on Baywatch for 1 year, the same year. And she was in Playboy as well. So you were kind of all right all across the board. But I think that's mostly what she's known for.
Wow. So she had, what year was it? 96?
I think it was 97 and 98.
Okay.
Yes.
So 97 to 98, she had 1 year of popularity.
That was your year. That's how she survives.
All right. She's
I guess she has like Dave Navarro and Dennis Rodman money, perhaps. So
Oh, yeah. That's right. She was married to Rodman and Navarro, yeah.
she was in Cheaper by the Dozen too. You saw that one, I'm sure.
Did I see the second one? I'm not sure. You know, speaking of Hillary Duff, though, Hillary Duff's husband.
We were.
Hillary Duff's husband apparently sent a bunch, or on Twitter did a bunch of selfies of her, like embarrassing selfies with her making weird faces or whatever to entertain himself while they were, quarantined or whatever. I don't know. It was it was, like I said before, for whatever reason, BuzzFeed just shows up in my news thing all the time. That was a BuzzFeed article, if you can believe it. If you can believe that hard-hitting news story was brought to you by BuzzFeed. It was. Anyway, so what else happens in this episode? So he kind of goes through the different patients and everything.
I think the structure of the show makes it a really good episode, but I think it's a lot less confusing if we just kind of say what happens, with each one in order. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to try to do it.
Yeah, so the farmer, he's presenting with this shooting leg pain, very descriptive, this farmer.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, and then he goes, okay, so what would you do first? And I believe they started to order tests. Is that the first thing they wanted to do?
Yeah, they wanted to order tests. They thought maybe a D-dimer, or, should they get a PET scan, maybe an MRI.
And House goes, okay, yeah, but he's dead because you need to look because it's actually a bite. It looks like a snake bite.
Yep. Yeah, because they're like, well, we didn't have time to run any tests. It's like, well, you have time to look at the leg?
Right. Yeah, which is obviously the first thing they should do.
Yeah. Puncture wound.
Yeah, so they determined there's 3 different types of snakes in New Jersey. There's the the copperhead?
Yep, timber rattler and coral.
Timber rattler. Wait, oh, yeah. So I was really into snakes for some period of time. So you should be able to instantly tell the difference between a coral snake, which is what they suspect it is, because they give them the venom that would account for the copperhead and the timber rattler.
Yep.
And the other 2, because the coral snake is a very small snake, and it actually each time it bites, it injects more venom. It's not like one big punch, so they do a lot of biting. So it'd be very curious to not be able to tell from the bites alone it was a coral snake.
Right, yeah.
In spite of this, House does know exactly how much venom a snake has in its venom sac, whatever it's called. I don't know.
That is so weird, too, because they give him the report, and he goes...
they capture a timber rattler, and they, go ahead, Mark, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. They give him the report, and he's like, couldn't have been the snake. You see the volume of venom. There's no way a snake of this size regenerates that much venom that fast. And then the keen student rightly says, we're supposed to know how fast snakes make their venom.
Which is a hilarious. It's like kind of a joke without being a joke.
Right. And House is like, no, unless you have a patient bit by one, then it could be helpful. It's like, but it's not really helpful in this situation, House.
Right. Well, speaking of hilarious jokes.
Yeah.
Did you catch I'm sure you caught the one in the most recent Better Call Saul.
Oh, actually, I haven't watched it yet. My wife and I are going to watch it tonight.
It's a great episode. I'm glad I didn't say who said what, because I would have definitely spoiled something. So never mind.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to watch it tonight. I'm very much looking forward to it.
It's a very good episode.
All right. Nice.
But it's like the most incredulous, but House, of course, knows this because House knows everything. So he goes, oh, it's not this. So they start giving the treatment for the other snake.
Yep.
The coral snake, which doesn't make any sense. So then it's also not working. And then they basically kind of realize it's like a flesh-eating bacteria type strain. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct. His leg is turning black. And it's like they do a really good job on the makeup on this part. It looks nasty.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was a classic Chase and Foreman like visit or some other way he finds out that the guy's dog had previously bit somebody.
Yes. Yeah, because
So they,
he says to the students, he's like, basically he says the guy's dying. All we can do now is call the family or whatever.
Very quickly. They don't know what poison he succumbed to, but yeah, it's very quickly going to be a dead man there.
Yeah, and so he's like, he says to the guys, he's like, what do you, they have a class, on how to tell people you're dying, you guys role play and stuff. And they're like, yeah, one of us gives the news, one of us gets the news. And he goes, another thing that, House points out, which, is weird if you think about it. He's like, what do you need to do to get an A in You're Dying 101?
Right.
And then he points out that he has a buddy, Wilson. He doesn't say his name, obviously, but obviously he's talking about Wilson, who House has to pay him $5 every time somebody thanks him. And he's so good that, he's taking a lot of House's money because people thank him.
Right.
For telling
Yeah, that was funny.
But that is totally Wilson.
For sure.
So he says to the guys, like, you're dying. And the guy's like, what are they going to do with my dog? And he's like, well, neighbors will take him. And he's like, no, they won't. They hate him, and all this stuff. And that's when House figures out that the snake, it wasn't a snake bite. It was a dog bite.
And then they swab it and realize that it's this flesh-eating bacteria. And then they're able to, they treat it, but they need a surgery. I think they're concerned that they might have to take the leg because the bacteria is advanced so far.
Yeah, it's gotten into too much of the tissue to be able to stop. And
in every one of these stories, there's a decision about whether or not you need to amputate someone's leg.
Yep. And the farmer does end up getting his leg amputated. But and the dog gets put down, but it works out for him. He gets a new dog, and his life is
you
fine.
can replace your dogs.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, obviously don't go, willy-nilly, euthanizing dogs or whatever, but I mean, the dog had a flesh-eating bacteria in its mouth and it was biting people.
And it bites people.
Yeah, so not a good combination.
No.
So then the next one is the volleyball player. At first it's the same middle-aged guy, but then he changes it to a, nondescript, because he has to change the identities so that, to protect their medical, information.
HIPAA laws, that kind of stuff.
So he, eventually they just make it a generic girl. But this is a Cameron case because she goes and gets the history from the girl, and she comes in and in very Cameron style, she's like, this boy that she likes, she asked her to dance, and he's like, blah, 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 like everything. And she's like, the boy, she's depressed. She knows the boy's a jerk, but she's still depressed. And she's like, I think she might have a thyroid problem. And he's like, problems in the thyroid gland can cause tendinitis, which is what they think it is, inflammation of the tendons in the leg, and also can cause depressed mood. So they give her a thyroid test, inject a needle in her neck. Not pleasant, but her T4, which is a thyroid hormone, is off. So they give her some thydroxin to try to treat that. But then it doesn't work, and she starts having hypercalcemia and extreme sensitivity to touch. And it turns out, they do a scan, it turns out that she has a tumor in her femur, I think an osteosarcoma, cancerous tumor in her femur. And again, it's one of those things where it's like the surgeons are going to go get it. They might have to amputate. It's a very real possibility depending on how large the tumor is and how ingrained it is.
Yeah, and as they point out in the other story, that they'd rather be more safe than sorry, because obviously they wouldn't want to have to go back in or not get it all out and have it spread again.
Yep, exactly.
And to the surgeon, it's just the more tissue they remove, the better. So I mean, in a sense, it is. I mean, I don't think they're just haphazardly walking around like amputating legs and stuff. But I mean, the same. It's more important that they get the cancer out than taking the leg.
Yep, and House points out that it's not an unreasonable position for surgeons to take. They're not thinking about, how happy is this patient going to be at the end of this surgery? They're thinking, what's the percentage wise, what's the best outcome for here? You know, like the best quality of life that we can give this patient without taking undue risks. And as House points out, the more tissue that you save, the the more risk you're taking as far as, whether it's cancer or, or other complications.
Right.
For her, they're able to get everything out and they don't have to amputate the leg. So she's fine. So we got one amputation, one not amputation. And then the third story is going to be kind of both and in between. But the third story of the three stories is the golfer. At first, Carmen Electra, which is pretty funny. They do. I think they use her just enough. It's just a little bit of Carmen Electra, and then they go.
It's not 1997 and 98 where she was all over the place.
Exactly. But they because they have she's the farmer for a minute too, because they have the farmer take his pants off and. The one guy's like, I thought it was the farmer, the guy, and he's like, yeah, but if we're gonna see a leg, might as well be Carmen Electra's. But anyway, so she becomes a guy at she transitions at some point in the story, and extreme pain.
Oh, did she? I didn't even notice, Mark.
Mike doesn't see gender.
I don't see that kind of thing.
All right. That's like, did you ever watch The Office? Like, have you ever seen any of The Office?
I've seen a lot of it, but when it gets to Ed Helms, I lose interest because I don't like his character or him.
Agreed. One of my favorite things was when Jim hires the Asian guy to pretend to be him, to be Asian Jim. And he goes up to the thing, and Dwight's like, who are you? He's like, and he goes, you're not Jim. Jim's not Asian. And he looks at me and he goes, hey, good for you for not seeing race, buddy. But anyway, so this guy's in a tremendous amount of pain. He's he's curling, as they say. They're trying to figure out, can't be a slip disc, he's curling too much, he's moving around, it can't be this, it can't be that, too much pain to be a hernia or whatever it is. And they're like, we don't know what to do with the they've got the morphine or whatever it is, Demerol, whatever it is, ready. But he's like, I don't know, because we don't know if he's allergic or whatever. And the guy himself just grabs it, jams it into his thigh, and injects it. And he's like, oh, I feel so much better now, thanks.
Right.
And they think that he's drug seeking. They think that's why he's there, which is a weird. I mean, obviously, doctors see a ton of drug seeking behavior, I'm sure. But that seems like a weird way to try to get drugs. I don't know. I mean, maybe not, but it seems really weird to come in like complaining about, like, just like absolutely freaking out about how intense pain you're in, because you would think they'd follow up. Like, apparently they kick him out. Apparently they kick him out because they think he's drug seeking, and they don't. He's presents with all this pain, but they don't do any follow ups.
Like, I get out of here, you rascal!
Right? Oh, you little scamp.
He just tousled his hair and threw him out with a patch of Demerol.
Yeah.
Don't you be cutting that up, as they wink to him.
Now, don't you get into shenanigans.
What would Danny DeVito say when they were kicking a patient out if he was exhibiting drug-seeking behaviors?
Hey, that guy's gonna be. That guy's gonna be turning tricks in the corner for that Demerol in no time.
That's right. Don't hide your light under a bushel, Mark.
But anyway, so he comes back and he's like, "Hey, it's hurting again. I need some more drugs." So they give him a catheter with no pain medication,
no lubricant or anything.
Yeah, that I don't know. I mean, House says this is.
You have to twist it back and forth. That's how little lubrication's on this thing.
Yes.
Like you're trying to pull a cork out of a wine bottle, but in reverse.
Right? House says this is his favorite method for determining whether or not someone is drug seeking, because if they can withstand having a tube shoved up their penis, then they're really sick. But I don't know I don't know how much of this story is true. I assume most of it, but it's like this is House's method. I don't think they actually did this to him, but to this guy. But anyway, so
Right, you're probably just relating like, oh, I was in so much pain that I let them do this, which is terrible.
right. So they
by the way, you just gave away the.
No, I know. He says the guy is peeing tea colored. So there's brown, yellow, and red in his urine, basically all mixed together.
Yeah, it looks like the aftermath of a night at Charlie Sheen's house.
Yeah, exactly. If you've been huddled up into a corner of one of Charlie Sheen's closets, then you've seen the stains on the ground.
We're just kidding. He probably doesn't do that.
No, I'm sure that he's a stand-up guy with AIDS, and people are throwing lamps all around his house and shit just for fun. But anyway,
they're throwing lamps at his house?
Yeah, that happens. Some prostitute was throwing his lamps around or something. I don't know.
Oh, I thought you were like a bunch of people showed up to his house and threw lamps at it. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, it's like how people throw pizza on the roof of the Breaking Bad house. People just drive up to the
anniversary of that yesterday.
Yeah, they just drive up to Charlie Sheen's house and throw lamps at it.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
This is for that prostitute.
We stayed with her.
Yeah, they're really standing up. But anyway, so House, by the way, gets a drink of water, spits it out because it tastes disgusting to him, and we'll get back to that later. And he
I forgot all about that.
So he draws this thing, and he's like, what is this? And the caring student says, his kidneys are damaged. It's blood in the urine. And he's like, but I used 3 colors. What's brown? And she's like, waste. And he's like, caused by what? And she's like, I don't referred pain or like trauma or something like that. And like they kind of go around, and he's like, screaming at him. He's like, what are you missing? And all this stuff. And then Cameron's the one that finally says muscle death. And he's like, oh, it's not your case, And the caring student says, dying muscle leaks myoglin or something like that, which is apparently is toxic to the kidneys, and that would cause that. And Foreman gets the reveal, which is good because I like when Foreman plays important roles in the show. He's like, oh, you were right, it's House. And then it switches to House. So House is telling his story basically of what happened. And then he tells them, the pain wasn't referred pain. It wasn't, anything like that. It was a aneurysm in his leg muscle, which clotted and caused an infarction, like a heart attack, but it's in your leg, which is basically just, a complete blockage of blood flow to the muscle. And they didn't figure it out for 4 days. The patient, as he pointed out, it took 4 days for the patient to suggest that it might be, dying muscle. So they find it, and they, basically they have some options here. Now Celia Ward's with him now, because this is when they were dating. They were the ones golfing together. And basically they say, okay, we can clear the blockage out. It will restore the flow of blood, but it's going to cause a ton of pain. 1, 2, there's buildup of cytokines and different things. And, one of them can raise potassium in your blood and cause a cardiac arrest. One of them can, lead to a heart attack. It's, really dangerous, and maybe we should just amputate. He doesn't want to amputate his leg. He is absolutely adamant against amputating his leg. He wants to keep his leg. So he says, I can get through the pain, undo the blockage, and let's white knuckle this shit. So they do, and he is in horrifying pain. Cuddy, who apparently is the head of the hospital at this time still, she says that she can. There's a middle ground, surgical procedure where they take out some of the dead muscle, as much of the dead muscle tissue as they can, but leave the leg intact. He doesn't want to do that either, really, because he thinks that they'll go in and they'll just they'll take the leg off and everything. So he says first of all he has a cardiac arrest in which he supposedly, I guess, sees the future and sees the the outcome for the other two patients. He sees the farmer, he sees the volleyball player, and what happens to them and their legs. Wilson says that he says, do you think those were real, those visions? And he says, I think that, in my opinion, it's just, the white light people and everything. It's chemical reactions in your brain as you're dying because, House doesn't believe in the afterlife or God or anything like that. And, he says, hey, I don't have any proof, but this is just what I find the most comforting. And so he says, I can't get through this, Stacy. So put me in a chemically induced coma.
Can't get through this, Stacy.
It's your fault, Stacy.
It's a great name to be mad at someone.
It is, really. It's a great name to say with hate. But so he says, put me in a chemically induced coma. Let me ride this out, and then wake me up when the worst of it's over. So they agree. Stacy's already got a plan because she says to Cuddy, she's like, hey, when he's out, I can make all the decisions because I'm his medical proxy, right? And she's like, well, you're a lawyer. You should know. And she's like, yeah, I guess, that's the deal. He doesn't want the surgery stuff. And she's like, yeah, I know, but I get to it's my call when he's out. So they knock him out, and she says, okay, do this surgery thing that you want to do, this middle ground thing. So, because she thinks,
which is just horrible. I mean,
yeah.
It's the best decision, but that's just awful. Someone going against your will, regardless of what it is.
Absolutely. Like it makes a ton of sense why he, why he got angry at her.
With her.
Yeah. Why he broke up with her, all this stuff, because it's horrible.
Yeah.
So,
there's a reason House isn't hitting that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So they do the surgery.
She learned to use the cane.
And basically it's, he stops the story. He says, the patient still suffers through, pain, daily because of the amount of muscle that had to be removed and everything. And they kind of have a little debate in the classroom. They're like, hey, she shouldn't have done that. That was horrible. One of the students is like, she made the right decision because that was the right thing for the patient. They're like, yeah, but she knew he didn't want it and everything. And House is like, well, patients are all morons anyway. So it's kind of like admitting, I guess, to himself that it was the right decision, even though
he basically treats the classroom as a therapist for 2 hours.
Yep. So then he goes up to Cuddy and says, hey, reason the guy's sick all the time is because he's an asshole that lets his kids play with lead paint. They painted him this mug, and he's basically poisoning himself.
Yeah, the mug says the world's greatest, and he goes, he's definitely not, because he's letting them play with his lead.
Right. So then he goes back to his office, and he calls Stacy, and he says, bring your husband in. I'll see him. And that's how the episode ends. And next week we will meet Mark Warner, Stacy Warner's husband.
Who's he played by?
I don't know. I think it's Danny DeVito.
Oh, what does he say during this next episode? Can we get a little preview? See, I heard he was played by Lawrence Taylor.
I'm Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, the football player.
What does Lawrence Taylor sound like? Well, let me tell you, I can't.
No, it might be Danny DeVito. Let's figure this out here. Because I'm not giving you Lawrence Taylor impression, and you really should not continue with the one you were starting. Let's just say you're doing Foghorn Leghorn. How about?
I'm having fainting spells, Stacy.
I've been canceled.
This is no good. This is no good now.
Yeah, that's no good.
All right. So
yeah, I like this episode. It was probably my favorite so far this season. It's very nice. It's self-contained. It's a little melodramatic the way that House has to reveal his pain and that sort of thing. Like, what can you do?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an insight into him though, which I think is nice. But yeah, that is the episode for the week. We will see you next week. As always, stay safe and stay indoors. Flatten the curve.
What would Dave DeVito's message to the audience be regarding the recent COVID-19?
You got to stay safe. You got to stay indoors.
I think we're. I don't know. That one left something to be desired. Let's put it that way.
I'm gonna continue to listen.
You lost it.
I'm gonna continue to listen to him and try to refine it.
You went too far. You went beyond DeVito. Now it's just its own thing.
Right.
You can get back though. You can get back.
All right. Well, we will see you next week. Bye.
See you next time.